Eric.
Uh,
Everything's going.
Good. You?
I'm good. I'm good.
Are you in the office?
No. I'm gonna go right after this. I know. I know Casey's in there. He's doing Waffle Wednesday. So
Yeah, I saw it. That's why I was asking.
so I'm missing out, but we'll see. I realize these haven't been super long recently. We haven't had too many big updates. So I don't know if you guys have any big updates, but I don't have anything large. So in
No.
theory, it should be a fairly short and sweet check-in this week or this month. But
Personally, I'm kind of hoping it's a short one because I got another meeting that's scheduled halfway through this that even, even if it's not short and I don't have anything to talk about, by that time I might jump off.
well,
Hey, everybody.
hey,
Hello.
looks like we have a decent quorum now.
You're missing waffles, Matt.
I know. I'm actually surprised you're on the meeting. How are you doing waffles and this at the same time?
We got an early, made them in advance.
Ah, well, I'll be in right after this. But yeah. So all right, I guess we have a quorum. So let me share my screen and we can get started here. Everyone see that?
Yes, we can see
Cool.
it.
I guess can I get someone to help me take notes? Well, at least during the portions that I'm speaking, and I'll help with the other parts.
Yeah, I can do that.
Awesome. Okay. So yeah, let's just start it off with kind of all our check-ins. So probably since the last time we met, 326.1 has been released. This is really about like 2 or 3 weeks ago at this point. So not really new news, but definitely I guess different from the last time. So I think that a lot of the issues we were hoping to fix there, they seem to be, I haven't seen anything about them recently. So I think we've fixed up a lot of the pieces we were looking to with that. In terms of kind of other patch releases, v325.2, we're working on that right now, still fixing things up in terms of CVs and library updates. So that should go out imminently. But we're still kind of fixing those things up and kind of working out some kinks that delayed the 326.1 release kind of with our release process. So it's a work in progress, but hopefully a lot of those improvements will show kind of when we actually start releasing that. And then I guess moving on to a minor release with 327.0. I guess most of the work that we're doing for that currently is more internal. So it's a lot of kind of refactoring, working with our build process, things like that. So we're going to have a smaller feature set for this, or because we were going to have such a small feature set for this, we're going to push the date back a little bit. Not entirely sure when that'll be, but we're pushing the date back so that we can encompass more things in this minor release. So it won't come out at our usual cadence, but we'll still have one. I think some things that we're looking at that I think are fairly imminent to going in there, though don't take, I'm probably giving a little too much info since it's probably not entirely finalized, but a couple things we're looking to add to that is overlay networking support in AKS. And then another thing, which I think I probably mentioned last month, is kind of HPC support for Windows. So those are kind of some two larger things that we're looking to get in with 327, but feature, I guess, list isn't fully finalized and just like the date.
Matt,
So
what do you mean by overlay networking support in AKS?
I think there were some issues with using, I think, was it IP and IP or VXLAN? And I know, I think it's IP and AKS. So I think there's some testing being done for the most part to make sure that we actually support it. So I think we previously were testing everyone to use VXLAN with AKS. So I think there's some, it's mostly testing.
Yeah,
IP.
I thought that was because Azure blocked IP and IP packets.
Yeah, I'm
Has
not.
that changed, I guess?
I think, yeah, I think they had some update where we could get around that now with some settings. So I think mostly in terms of, I guess, support for it, it's us testing whether or not all those things will work and then coming up with the appropriate testing or automated testing on our side to make sure that it'll remain that way and that we can support that long term.
Gotcha.
So hopefully that'll work out, and then we'll have that. So yeah. So that's it for, I guess, all the releases that I'm tracking. How about any operator updates, Eric?
I don't think there's too much. I don't let me scroll down. What did I say last time? Because there's been a few changes that looks like I mentioned this a couple community meetings ago. I was gonna say some improvements to migration. Yeah, I think that's what I'm thinking of. So yeah, not too much. There have been a few issues that have come in, and I've been responding to them. A couple around the Helm installs, and I usually try to send them over to the Calico repo since Helm is bundled over there right now. And yeah, one thing that I right now I've marked as a like help wanted, because I don't know if we'll be if inside the project we'll be doing this directly, but like we'd accept updates. Is somebody was wanting what was it? It was some addition to like something that they needed to override. I think it maybe was like pod related to pod security names, or be able to set those or set permissions on those, and it would fit in with our like how we override like annotations and annotation. No, I meant tolerations and selectors and stuff like into those, like Typha and Node and CSI Node driver, those override areas. Like that seemed like it would be an easy thing to add there. So yeah, maybe we'll get a submission, but we got a bug around it, so I included that. But yeah, nothing too big, I don't think. Casey, you aware of anything?
Not aware of anything. I know I've been trying to work on the Helm uninstall bug that's been open for a while. I have a PR in progress, and I've been making some progress on it, but I've been out for a couple of weeks, so yeah, a lot of that has been sitting. I hope to get back to that soon and sort of put the final nail in that uninstall stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think I also saw something about IP pool management or something, and I Was
Yeah.
thinking your
I also started
prototype
working
you
on
were
this.
working on. Yeah, I was like,
I
I
have a
didn't say
lot of
any.
half done, or maybe that's generous, a third done projects in flight. But
Yeah, yeah. I saw the request there or question around that, and I was like, oh man, I wish we had that had that out. That probably address your issues. But yeah,
yeah, I may actually
yeah,
work on one or both of those this afternoon. It's a short day for me, so I can try to squeeze in one of those projects. Not that I'm promising anything being done.
Any amount of progress is appreciated. Sweet. Cool. I don't have anything, I guess, particular for like the BPF side. Though I think we're still working on getting IPv6 working. So I think some of the PRs that we've merged and kind of got out, I think mostly have been for adding IP options, things like that. So all in preparation for IPv6. So we're still doing testing and some verification and development. So it's coming, but yeah, nothing, no concrete progress as of yet. Nathan, any updates for the VPP side?
Yes. So main object from this side is the 3.26 release. So we release push artifacts, and this time I think less than 2 weeks after the Calico release. So we're getting closer. And since then, we've been working mostly on. So we've been working on documentation, trying to make the user guides a bit smoother, change their documentation, and make testing a bit easier for people coming up and wanting to try mostly kind or very simple setups. And we started tackling some long-standing bugs that we have had. So we have one in the CI, and we are trying to track down a WireGuard issue as well. So when an issue in WireGuard when you enable and disable WireGuard on a single node, so some weird things happen. So just global sanity things. And that's mostly it. Hopefully, we're going to be able to leverage part of the summer to do bit of code quality improvements and the refactoring. That's always the best period to do those kind of things.
Definitely.
Aside from going to the beach, which is also a nice summer activity. That's awesome.
You know which one I'd pick.
Yeah. That's it on down the VP side.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks for that. I think that should probably wrap up all of our updates then. Unless I'm forgetting any sections, but I don't believe so. So I guess that'll move us on to any hot issues, which I guess fitting kind of with some of the IP pool management stuff that Casey and Eric were talking about earlier. The issue that I wanted to kind of bring up is 7845, which is another issue about allowing IP pools to be initialized at install time. So I'm fairly certain that that's probably the IP pool management stuff you're looking at in terms of the Helm installation and everything else. But this is brought up again. This, I forgot what the, Lance, you might remember what the install framework they were using was again. I forget exactly off the top of my head.
I don't remember. Sorry.
Okay. Either way, yeah, there's it came up for kind of a different framework that people are using to try to install things. So it's starting to become more and more apparent we should have some mechanism that folks can use to initialize IP pools at install time. It's not the first time this has come up. So wanted to point this out and I guess get any thoughts from folks if there are any thoughts that they have about it.
So I think the problem with IP pools, I mean, there's a lot of problems with IP pools, but the problem that is most relevant here is that their creation and update and deletion logic is actually kind of complicated, because we do a bunch of stuff behind the scenes to make sure that when you create or update an IP pool, you're not doing so in a way that's going to severely break your state by, for example, making pools that overlap with each other, or making pools that, even if they might not overlap with an existing IP pool, they overlap with IPs that are allocated to pods in your cluster from an IP pool that once existed and no longer does. So this is like kind of, especially the latter one, is pretty complicated validation as far as like what you can do just in a CRD. You really need some other piece of code, either an API server, which is what we do, or like a webhook or some other type of controller doing that for you. And so it's not really just a matter of like, you know, with some of our APIs, if we wanted, we might be able to add validation tags that are implemented by the Cube API server using, you know, Cube Builder and open API schemas, and sort of call that a day. You know, make sure you can only put things that match a certain regex in a certain field. That's not going to cut it for pools, and so there's a bunch of code that used to be written or moved around in creative ways to allow this to happen, and allow it to happen in a way that is safe and isn't going to cause problems for people. So the sort of stuff we were alluding to earlier was an operator-based solution. So it would involve a new controller in the operator that is monitoring some sort of user input that can be set up at the start of day, and doing all of this kind of fancy validation and defaulting logic before officializing that state, certifying it, and marking it so that Calico can actually go ahead and action it. That's just still in the early ideation stage though, so it needs a bit more thought and testing and code to be written. Not necessarily in that order.
Yep, makes sense. I think, yeah, at this point, because yeah, I think we've had multiple kind of iterations of ideas for this, so it's good to see kind of the newest one. But yeah, if anybody else has any ideas or objections to anything, please let us know, because I think this is getting more and more traction, and we should probably address this sooner rather than later. So
yeah.
Yep.
We did also make some small steps towards this in some of the recent releases, if I recall correctly. I think Pedro on our team made some changes to one of the things that IP pool creation and update used to do was configure Felix properly for encapsulation modes. Like it would set the VXLAN or IP enabled toggle on Felix configuration based off of what was in the IP pool. So we did refactor that so that that's no longer something that IP pools are responsible for, and instead Felix can sort of bypass and look at IP pools directly. So that's like one small bit of logic from that has been pulled out and made made in such a way that it no longer relies on being hooked into the IP pool creation logic. Like the more things we can do like that, pulling it out of the sort of synchronous create time API call and moving it into some controller that handles that logic, the closer we get to this.
Yep, makes sense. So yeah, it'll be a fairly large thing, but we're slowly moving towards it. So cool. Sweet. Any other issues or anything else anybody else is tracking, find interesting?
I have 7839. So that one, it seems that IPAM garbage collection gets stuck in the situation where you delete about 100 nodes and 5K pods at the same time.
At the same time?
Yep. So you delete 100 nodes and there were 5K pods on those nodes, and IPAM GC is stalls and never cleans up. So it, regardless of how long you give it.
That's a lot of pods per node.
Sorry, they say 3 to 5K pods. Sorry, it's still a lot of pods per node.
A lot, yeah. But
yeah, so while it's a pretty extreme case, IPAM garbage collection should probably not get stuck permanently.
I agree. Do you know why it's getting stuck? Is it like hitting a memory limit and falling over, or is it
unclear? We have logs in the issue apparently. So Sean's been working with them in Calico users to get some diags.
Yeah. Presumably this doesn't go away if you just delete 2,999 pods all at once instead. You don't have a great idea where the cutoff is yet.
Yeah, exactly. So this is all using Carpenter, and so they're doing some kind of really big CI job, and so they the cluster is really tiny for a while, and then they set up like a billion jobs, and Carpenter scales the cluster up massively, and then as soon as the jobs are done, Carpenter scales it all down without tidying up neatly.
Yeah,
and hence garbage collection has to get involved.
Yeah.
It's not a completely, I mean, it is a use case we've heard of before. It's just clearly not a very common one.
Yeah,
we
it's
probably
just
haven't
at
seen
a
it.
scale that's a little bit bigger than I guess we've tested too.
Definitely.
So, well, it's good to know. It's this is our scale testing to some degree for garbage collection. So
yeah, it's probably not an especially complicated fix, but just a matter of finding where it's bottlenecking and improving that.
Yeah, and making sure it always makes some progress.
yeah, or it can find that progress if that node is gone or something else before it had finished. Yep. Yeah.
And based on the logs, we think there's some weirdness about it not realizing that the node is gone or something like that. Anyway, yeah.
Okay. So
it definitely looks like some kind of actual bug.
I'd imagine that is. It sounds like one.
And it's certainly possible. I think we recently changed this so that it's entirely driven off the cache. So like there was some logic originally that in certain cases we bypassed our cache and went to the API server in order to confirm that we weren't acting on like out of date state that was cached, right? Because it's possible you get behind on updates or out of order updates or something like that. And I'd have to check the issue and see what version they're running, but there was a PR to change that behavior so that for another sort of scale related issue, at very high scale, you don't want to be making lots of API calls. But if we are lagging behind, we might be acting on the cache, seeing that a node still exists and maybe not ever getting the update for some reason to say that the node's gone. Maybe there's just a bug in that code now that misses node deletion updates, and we think they exist forever.
Yeah, maybe we haven't recorded it properly, or we're missing it. Who knows?
Is there not a periodic reconcile that if something was missed, it wouldn't
There's
catch that?
never I'd have to go back. There's been so many iterations on this code. I don't think there's ever a point where we like requery the entire list of things from the API server, like on a timer. We'll do that if you restart the pod, right? It'll come back up and prime its cache with information from the API server, but we don't like periodically say, okay, let's refresh our cache and rebuild it.
Lance, do you know, was the pod restarted and it did the same thing, or?
I do not. There's a lot of stuff in that thread, in that issues thread, including pictures and stats and all sorts. There's a good set of diags.
Okay. Because if that happened and it still did it, then it probably take it out of being a caching issue.
Yeah, I'm just sort of riffing over here. We'll have to go look at the actual issue.
All right.
One thing that I don't know why it brought that to mind, brought this issue to mind, but I know I've seen a few, and I think they were on the operator, or maybe it might have been even in Slack, where people like didn't, I guess, understand the configuration that they could do on the operator with a Helm install.
Yes.
I think you were, I think at one point you were making some updates to improve that. Is that right, Casey? Or has that been done, or is that still in progress?
There's definitely some point where I was thinking about making some updates to improve that. I haven't, the lightning bolt hasn't struck yet. I haven't gotten that idea yet of like how to actually make this better. The problem is that users, rightfully so, expect to be able to go look at values.yaml and see what their config options are. But our values.yaml are kind of like the certain sections of our config model in Helm are just direct pass-throughs to our operator API structures. And so like probably we want some way to generate values.yaml or an example values.yaml with all of our operator APIs built in with like default or blank values. So that you don't
It's
have to
not-
like
Oh,
go
go
look at a doc and then say like, okay, how do I convert this Kubernetes API reference into a values.yaml file? You can just open the values.yaml and it'll be pretty apparent. Like, well, if I want to set, the image registry or whatever else, the number of replicas or something like that. Like there's a clear place to do that.
I mean, do we like, does it, well, I don't know. All right, I'm not sure when you say values YAML, I'm not sure if you're actually talking about like the sample or example one we have, or like when you run like a Helm command to spit something out, like, can we just have like or do we have already like comments in there like, hey, you can go look at this installation
already
spec and
got-
put, we've
Yeah.
got, okay.
I think we've already got comments in there. It's just not an intuitive process. I mean,
Gotcha.
even for like me who knows what's going on, and like I mean the other side of the problem is that our reference documentation for the installation API is not necessarily easy to parse if you don't know what you're looking for. That's like some compounding issues. You know, we could make that page really nice and easy to find what you're looking for and easy to see how to convert it into a Helm thing, right? Like click on a field and it brings up an example bit of Helm values.yaml for how to set this. Or we can make our values.yaml sort of self-contained and self-documenting so that you don't need to be referred to some external page to see how to configure it. Or we could do both. But I think that making the values.yaml self-documenting is what is expected for a Helm chart and will be the best user experience.
Yeah, I agree. We should make it so that they don't have to know exactly what's happening, but the high level goals are met by setting their configuration. So
The like cheesy, easy first pass of this is just us going in and writing out all the fields ourselves and commenting out the ones that we don't want set by default, so that anybody can go in and uncomment it. And whenever we add a new field, we go into there and add it to the values.yaml. And maybe somebody should just do that as a first pass so that we sort of get a stopgap solution in. It would be better if we could auto-generate that.
mhm. Yep. Okay, cool. Well, hopefully you'll work on that this afternoon then, I guess.
Add to the list.
All right, cool. Anything else that anybody's been thinking about?
I mean, since we're talking about Helm and my list, there's
Yeah.
that Helm uninstall issue, which a lot of people have been hitting, which I think we've talked about quite a bit
Mhm.
in the distant past. But the summary is that Helm ordering of things results in tearing down of the operator before it can remove finalizers on certain resources, which sort of gets you in a bad way because then those resources never delete and you can't go ahead and reinstall because trying to create those resources now results in an error that they're in the process of being deleted, and it requires some mucky going in by hand and removing finalizers, which is something that people are rightfully not too keen on doing. So I have been working on that. I think that the latest place we got to is that we're going to need to have some Helm like pre-deletion hooks to there's a nice drawing on my screen.
Sorry, for some reason, I was clicking somewhere else and it drew something on the screen.
Okay. I looked down and I looked back up and I saw these blue lines and I thought, somebody like right on my screen with a marker? What happened? How did that happen so quickly? Still tired, clearly. Yeah, so the pre-deletion hook is probably our best bet to make sure things are done in the right order, but I just need to do that.
Will that wait on anything?
What do you mean by wait on anything?
Well, I mean, I'm imagining a pre-deletion hook just means it will, like, you can tell it to delete the installation resource first. But
Well, I
that's
think
not, you go ahead.
I think that you can yeah, I mean, you would delete the installation first. And what you would do is you would delete the installation and wait for it to actually be gone.
Can you do that?
Why not?
Because I didn't think Helm was smart enough to wait on anything.
The pre-deletion hooks are jobs that get launched.
Oh, okay.
So
Gotcha.
Helm would launch a job, wait for it to complete.
I see. Gotcha.
And the job would be essentially a kubectl delete installation with foreground deletion so that it doesn't return until the delete completes.
I see. Cool.
I think that's probably all the discussion on there for now until you try it out. Cool. Any
Yeah,
other
the
updates?
PR for that is
Cool.
2662 in case anybody wanted to look at it. I can add a link into the notes if you want to keep going.
Yep. Okay, cool. Cool. I guess on that note, any other updates anyone else has? Any other issues or any other updates? Doesn't look like it. Okay, cool. I guess on that note, then I think that can wrap up our community meeting for this month. So unless anybody else has anything else, but doesn't look like it. So cool. Thanks everybody. And we'll see you guys all next month.
See everybody.